So what is a lazy betta fish tank? That's probably why you clicked on this video, right? Next to me here is a roughly 8.8 gallon, I think, aquarium. It's got plants in it. It's home to Richard the betta fish, and this is probably one of my laziest tanks. It could be a betta tank, it could be a shrimp tank, it could be a normal fish tank. It doesn't really matter. And really, I just like to use that wording when talking about a balanced, mature system that I don't have to do a lot to, which I think is a lot of people's goals. Even when it comes to water changes, I just drain it down not even halfway, once every 2 months, 3 months maybe. It just depends on when I remember to, honestly, because it really doesn't need any intervention, and that's what's lazy about it. And let's talk about how you can get a tank like this for yourself. Something you might be wondering is, Mike, why is there algae in this aquarium? How come it doesn't look so perfect, right? Not all aquariums are easy to make look that way, right? I mean, it takes a lot to have a pristine aquarium with no algae, everything's in place and perfect all the time. And part of having a lazy tank, in my opinion at least, is kind of giving up that dream. Don't get me wrong, some tanks, they rely on heavy maintenance and a lot of work to maintain that really precise look that you want. But this is an aquarium that I decided, I was just say, hey, you know, I want to let this thing go and be natural and do its thing, and just have it be something that I enjoy rather than have to work on. And so that's why when you look around this tank, you're gonna see there's algae on the boost, there's some algae kind of floating in the rotala stems that are unkept and just floating all over the place in here. I do very little trimming to this thing ever. I mean, maybe once or twice in its entire life cycle, I've gotten in here and trimmed it, and that's really okay with me. Again, because this is a tank that is just meant to kind of go through natural processes without any intervention. At the end of the day, the algae is something that isn't going to harm anything in the system, and in a lot of ways it is natural for it to be there, and so we just leave it and move on. Quick break for our sponsors over at AQUAPROS, guys. If you are setting up a new tank and you need a new canister filter, you're looking to replace an existing system with something, I highly recommend the AQUAPROS canister filters. You know this, I use them on all my tanks down here. This is a FiltoSmart 300 Thermo with the built-in heater. These things are awesome. I know it's been a long time since we've set up a new tank, guys, and we needed to use a proper canister filter on an actual, you know, aquarium other than a nano tank, but we are going to be starting that very soon. We just got a ton of new tanks, and you'll be seeing this stuff here pretty soon. So go check out AQUAPROS if you need a new canister filter. Highly recommend them. But let's just go ahead and answer the question, right? How do you end up with a lazy tank like this? Once you mentally get past the notion that it's going to have imperfections, it's probably going to have a little bit of algae, you give up on doing all the fine tweaking to try and prevent that stuff, you just kind of let nature take its course. The first thing that you have to do is allow time to move on. That's all you have to do. Just be patient. Once you stop worrying about the aesthetic of your tank, it can actually make you enjoy your aquarium a lot more. And that's exactly what I did with this tank. This thing is probably a year old, if not a little bit more. I'd have to go back and look through the video catalog to see when we set this up, but it's been like this for a very long time. And time is ultimately what is going to give you a balance in your system and allow you to not have to really do maintenance to it, to keep it safe for whatever you have in it. And that's really why I don't have to worry about doing water changes on this system. Obviously, we only have one fish in here for the roughly 10 gallons of water. There are some shrimp in here. I think there's a couple of black neos in here somewhere, and they like to hide out. The population has shrunk a lot because Richard totally ate the babies a long time ago. Poor guys. But that's really what it is just time. Let it just do its thing. And yeah, there might be some algae, there might be some imperfections, but ultimately, if you can get past that, then I think it allows you to just enjoy what you have. You're not going to get upset if you get a little bit of algae. You're not going to be mad if what you were trying to do to solve a problem, mostly being related to the aesthetic, doesn't work out. It's okay because that's not the focus anymore. All I have to do to this tank when I do my water changes is clean up a little bit of mulm that ends up on the bottom of the tank. And that's something, again, I do whenever I get in here and do a little water change, which is like every 2 months, roughly, if I had to guess. But that's really it. So this is purely I look at this aquarium when I'm at my desk, I don't worry about it, I don't stress over it, and it just runs itself. Everything's fine. If you're curious about all the details of this tank. We did do a setup video for it like a million years ago. I'll find it and I'll put a link for it in the description. Basically, we just have a lid on here because that's important. We don't want Richard jumping out of this thing. And we also just have a cheap little Azu hang-on back filter, perfect for a tank like this. And then we have the ONF Flat 1, the small one. I always forget the names, but it's a great LED, it's app controlled, and it throws out a really good spectrum, and I like it a lot. I think we have UN contra soil at the bottom, and that's what like the rotala in the back is planted into, and then the rest is just this driftwood. I think it's ADA wood, or I don't know what the exact name of it is. It could be something slightly different, but it's kind of like a Malaysian driftwood, but a little different. That probably doesn't help you, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And then we have some Sirius stones in there. That's where the boost is located mostly, and that's really it. For a long time, I was hyper focused on aquascaping and making things look perfect and not having algae and figuring out the recipes for how to do that. I still am in a lot of ways. I'm not giving up on like trying to do high-end aquascapes or anything, guys, but this tank and the forest tank over on the other side of the room has really taught me a lot about just creating a stable ecosystem that isn't perfect, that has little flaws, but is still really enjoyable. And I think at the end of the day, when when we take part in this hobby of fish keeping and aquascaping, or one or the other, or both at the same time, it really just comes down to your enjoyment level and what you get out of your own tank. And so for each person, that's a different thing. And however you like to keep your tanks or operate, set them up, whatever, that's up to you, whatever makes you happy and whatever gives you the most enjoyment out of your tank. So figure out what that is. Just know that your ideas of what you like, what you're into, is probably going to change if you're in this hobby for a long time. I know for me, it's changed a lot. And that's okay. As long as you're still having fun and enjoying fish keeping, everything's all good. So I think that's all I wanted to do and say in this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're new, hit the notification bell if you want to see when I upload the next video, and we'll see you next time.